Welcome to Podcast, the Business of Dentistry podcast, brought to you by Practice Plan. Podcast delivers the best business advice, real-life stories, and practical hints and tips to make your practice a more profitable and sustainable business. And now, here's your host.
Hello, I'm Nigel Jones, the Strategy Director of the Practice Plan Group of Companies, and I'd like to welcome you to this latest edition of Practice Plan's podcast, where today we're going to be exploring the issue of improving income and in particular improving treatment plan take-up rates. And I'm doing that in the company of my colleague, Lesley Turner. Hello, Lesley.
Hi, Nigel.
For the benefit of people that may not know you, could you explain your background and your role?
Yes, my background is in dentistry as a practice manager, business manager, and worked alongside the corporates as integrations and training manager. But most recently, I've been with Medenta, and I'm one of the business development managers for Medenta, and work with a large group of practices.
Okay, so you'll be in that role helping practices introduce patient finance. And I just wondered if we could start by exploring what problem finance helps solve. So with the practices that you're talking to, what makes them come to us in the first place?
Well, generally, we usually say to practices, have a look at what treatment plans you want accepted, if it's the larger ones or if it's general treatment plans. And you can usually find out that from doing a very quick report on your dental software. By using the dental software, just looking at the outstanding treatment plans over £1,000, £2,000 in the last 6 months. And that would generally indicate as to whether finance could actually support what you're trying to achieve in the practice and actually increase the uptake of treatment plans. You could go back to your patients and say, well, we've seen that you haven't accepted this treatment plan. Would you like a complimentary conversation with us? And obviously, we do offer finance now, so that may be something that might actually help somebody accept their treatment plan.
Yeah, that makes sense because it's I think quite a challenging time for practices at the moment. I think when you look at the cost of living crisis and the impact that might have had on disposable income, and people might be delaying therefore decisions about elective cosmetic dentistry.
Absolutely.
So I can understand from that point of view, it's a potential useful tool for making treatment more affordable. But at the same time, practices need to increase their income because their running costs are going up. So I guess this idea of trying to increase income to offset those increased overheads, as well as allow patients to tap into the treatment that they probably want is a big driver.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And, for some practices, it has, increased their income. I've got one practice, it's increased their income by 10% just by using finance. So, yeah.
Okay, and that's really important because I would imagine that, and I think there's the British Dental Association talk about the fact that practice running costs in the last couple of years have gone up by 24-25%. So if you can increase your income by 10% just
Absolutely.
using finance,
Yeah,
that's a really valuable benefit.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. We have got a little tool that we use in practice when we're talking to practices, and we ask them what they want to increase um, their income by, and we actually go through and say, well, okay, if this is your average treatment plan, you would possibly need to only do 2 or 3 applications a month on finance to actually reach those targets. So, it's not a massive amount of work either for the clinicians or the front desk, but it does make patients feel a little bit more comfortable about their larger treatment plans.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said then about getting them to calculate what they need and how much.
Mm.
Because one of my frustrations with the God, decades now that I've spent working with practices is from a clinical perspective, they'll measure things to the micron, but when it comes to some key business measures, they tend to be uh, will find it hard to prioritize looking at those sorts of areas. And yet, I guess if you aren't monitoring how well your treatment plan acceptance is going, how much the value of outstanding treatment plans could be, you're potentially underestimating the benefit that could come from something like finance.
You're absolutely right. Yes. I mean, it all starts obviously from the recalls, trying to get at least 84% of recalls back in, because that's where you're going to see the treatment that's going to be needed. And you're absolutely right in terms of looking at what you want to achieve every single month in terms of income and where you can improve that. And that sometimes can be through those larger treatment plans that are not being accepted. And sometimes it's through the treatment plans that maybe are not as high as you would expect, maybe a crown, for example. I often say to practices, if you've got a patient coming in pain, and they think they need a filling, which is going to be what, £200-300, they're prepared for that. The patient's prepared for that. But if they come in and actually they say, well, you say it's a crown, that could be, £600 to £800. And that's at the moment maybe a little bit less affordable for a patient. So if you can offer it to them over 6 months to pay that back, you have the treatment, you've got the treatment plan accepted, and then the money is in your bank at the beginning of the treatment, so it helps with your cash flow. And we've got a win-win situation. So the patient's happy and the practice is happy. So a lot of practices have previously discounted under £1,000, but sometimes it's there for that reason.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you've touched on another important point within that, which is I mentioned as one of my earlier comments about elective treatments and cosmetic
Yeah,
dentistry, but actually the way that running costs of a practice are going now, the costs of general dentistry are also going up, and I guess finance is becoming increasingly irrelevant for general dentistry.
definitely. We've seen that a lot over the last 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense, makes sense. So I think my perception of finance is that actually it's a helpful thing to be able to make patients aware is available, because they might be delaying coming into a practice because they're worried they need treatment and that they don't know how to afford it. But then equally, it's a way of overcoming an objection from a patient that has been in, has had a treatment plan presented, but is totally bought into the idea and what's involved, just is worrying about the affordability. So it helps it address that affordability
Yeah, you're
objective.
absolutely right. Yes.
Okay, so if it sounds like in the right circumstances,
Oh,
it's a potentially very useful tool. So if a practice comes to you and you think, well, actually, yes, you've got the sufficient numbers of treatment plans and a potential opportunity to improve the treatment plan acceptance rate, finance seems right for you. What are the sort of steps that you would take them through?
well, we need to onboard you, and we need to make sure that the practice is sound before we actually take you on to the platform that we use, which is Secure Trust Bank. And what we will do is take you through the onboarding system, which is just finding out a little bit of due diligence with us, um, looking at your accounts, your bank accounts, public liability. We found a lot of practices that sometimes are insured in the wrong name. They're insured in um, a trading name as opposed to their entity name. So we've been able to support some practices that way. And then once they're onboarded with us, we will actually take them through a training session so we can train them and train the whole team as well. So everybody knows exactly what they should be saying to the patients, and to not be mis-selling, not being pushing. It's just there as much as a credit card would be for a patient.
I
Um,
suppose, I mean, what you're touching on there is the fact that quite rightly, consumer credit, because that's what we're talking about,
Absolutely.
is subject to some fairly tight and significant regulation. So you have to, there's certain hoops that have to be jumped through to be able to operate.
Yes, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes. And the FCA are the overriding body that covers that. It's a little bit like the GDC in dentistry or CQC in terms of in the compliance there. So, we work very well in the regulated environments with the FCA.
Yeah, that's important. And,
Yeah.
there's so many acronyms that get sort of flung around, but that's a
Ah,
Financial Conduct Authority.
you're absolutely right. Yes.
And they have certain requirements and certain expectations to basically protect patients from not being put into significant debt that they aren't it's not appropriate for them. It seems absolutely right that there's that protection in there, but that does mean that practices there's a certain level of expectation about them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we look roughly for at least 2 applications a month. And the reason for that is so that you're having compliant conversations with the patients on a regular basis. It's like anything, the more you do something, the better you become at it. So yes, that's really why we have that
Yeah, yeah,
set
and
there.
I mean, I think that's because the FCA have that use it or lose it policy, I think, where and it makes sense because what they're trying to do is make sure that people who are helping patients apply for a loan stay up to date and don't become rusty. So actually, if you don't use it enough, you could have fallen out of date with what the regulatory requirement is. So it makes sense that there's that scrutiny to make sure you're using it enough to keep your knowledge up.
That's right.
But
I mean, and
and
that's one thing that Medenta are really, really good at. We are really good at informing practices about the compliance and the regulations that are coming up. We're a lot more supportive than I think any other um, company out there because we do support practices in that way. And I'm often asked for a little bit of help here and there, and of course that's where our expertise is. So
yeah, I think that's good. I mean, finance is unlikely to be the main focus of a practice. The main focus of the practice is patient care. A
exactly,
lot of patients will be paying out of pocket or via credit card, as you
yeah,
said before. A proportion will be going through finance, but then because there's those regulatory hoops, y they're important. So I guess a role for you and the wider Medenta team is to make sure that people stay up to date, even though it's not quite high up their priority
yeah,
list.
you're absolutely right, and that's exactly what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I mean, the regulatory goalposts do move, not often substantially, but enough that you have to pay
Yeah, I mean,
attention
over
to
the
them.
last couple of years, they have moved a lot, and that's where we have been able to offer a lot more support for our practices.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I get the sense. I don't know whether you would agree with this, but that that actually it could be quite daunting, especially for a dental practice that doesn't, for whom
yeah,
consumer credit's not. But once you get under the skin of these things, they're actually a lot more straightforward than they appear,
yes,
which is where we can help. So, I mean, I think one of the regulatory changes that's underway at the moment, when you first look at some of the requirements of the SCA, you think, "Wow, how am I going to do this?" But actually, it's a
yeah,
call for now job.
exactly, exactly. But again, in a busy practice, you often haven't got the time to sort of look through and think it's a quarter of an hour job. So I have a lot of practices that just pick the phone up and say, "Lesley, can you help me, please?" And we do give support in that respect.
Yeah, so I suppose I guess bringing this conversation to a close, how would you sum up why practice should think about finance and then think about Medenta?
Okay, well, using finance in the practice will actually help your patients to accept treatment plans and increase your income, which is obviously what you're wanting to do in any business. And Medenta are here to support you in everything that we do. We're not just going to onboard you and then leave you to it. We're here to support you with training. When you get new team members, we can do extra training. We've also got a resources hub as well, so you can actually go through, and any new members of team can go onto that, and you can use it as part of your induction. So yeah, we are very, very supportive in that respect.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you very much for your time today, Lesley. Really enjoyed talking to you, of course.
Yeah,
So, yeah, hopefully we'll chat again at some point.
excellent. Thank you very much.